of non-white immigration. Rick is well-versed in global politics and how it spreads like a cancer to affect every aspect of the lives of ordinary people like us. You can learn more about Rick Tyler from his website, www.ricktylerforcongress.com. That's all one word, ricktylerforcongress.com. And with that, Rick Tyler, welcome to the Political Cesspool.
Thank you so much, Winston. It's indeed a great pleasure to be on the air with you tonight.
Well, we've received numerous emails from our listeners asking when we were going to have you on, and we'll get into the reason for those emails very shortly. But you are running for Congress, correct?
That is correct. I'm running for the United States House of Representatives here in the 3rd Congressional District in the state of Tennessee.
Well, let's start with the fundamental question that every candidate for office should answer. Why are you running?
Well, of course, lest anybody, misunderstand my intentions, this is not some gadfly exercise, for my own self-aggrandizement. I believe with the utmost of sincerity that I can actually win this seat. Now, I say that with the proviso that, I'm well acquainted with the phenomenon of vote fraud and all of the skillful machinations with which the power structure can rig and control the outcome of elections. But having said all that, I do believe that potentially, by the grace of God, I can actually win this congressional race, and I'm running with that intent in mind, obviously to deliver a mega dose of urgently needed truth to an America which is right now teetering perilously close to absolute destruction.
All right. I'd like to start by letting folks know why or how you achieved a bit of notoriety in the past few weeks. You erected a billboard with the blazing message, "Make America White Again." How did you come up with that?
Well, I, of course, derived some inspiration from Donald Trump and his very profound yet simplistic message of "Make America Great Again." And, of course, I reasoned that if Trump is so controversial by, just saying the things that he says, quite obviously in the politically correct climate that we live in today, if one such as myself dared to put forth an audacious message, which, of course, is thoroughly rooted in truth and logic, but if one put forth the message of "Make America White Again," that this would in all likelihood captivate the attention of both friends and foes alike, and it would go viral, as the saying goes, and would very quickly generate something that is fundamental to the objective of winning any political race, and that's name recognition. Virtually overnight, the "Make America White Again" billboard translated things from me being a virtual political unknown to having almost universal name recognition in the district.
What was the reaction? You just explained that the ultimate reaction was that it got you instant name recognition, and you are correct there, sir. It did get you instant name recognition internationally, as a matter of fact. What was the reaction from individuals?
Well, it's been a mixed bag. Needless to say, there are those progressive, liberal, statist, socialist, Marxist types who absolutely loathe and despise hardcore truth. And, of course, they had the predictable reaction. They played right into my hands, however, because their vitriol and their absolute, chaotic reaction was the very thing that propelled the story to international proportions as quickly as it did. However, there have been a great many people who have expressed thankfulness to me. Very frequently now when I go into the local community, out to the grocery store or up to the local gas station, people, total strangers, people I don't even know, come up. They shake my hand. They thank me for taking the stand, for saying the things that so many people believe but are afraid to say. Frequently they ask to have their picture taken with me. I do get a few negative public reactions from people, too, but usually that's in the form of muttering under the breath. There are, again, those who are against me, very, very much so. But there's no question that the sleeping giant, the predominantly white population of my congressional district, definitely resonates with the very clear and concise message of Make America White Again.
You said that the reactions were, the negative reactions were against you. Do you think that underneath that reaction against you is really a reaction against white people?
Well, I certainly believe that is part of it. This phenomenon called white guilt that we call white guilt, it's very real. White people have been subjected to such a long, protracted campaign of mind control and propaganda and brainwashing that without even realizing it, they suffer from this syndrome of white guilt, and a lot of them tend to have a knee-jerk reaction. Even good, conservative, constitutionally oriented type, people, tend to exhibit this white guilt phenomenon as well. Very often they'll start their sentence by saying, "Now, I'm not a racist," but, anybody who feels they have to start the sentence that way is exhibiting, the fact that they suffer from at least a twinge of white guilt. And so, yes, it's anti-white. Obviously, the white race is despised, unfortunately, by a significant number of non-white people, and it's simply a matter of jealousy and resentment. After all, the aggregate achievement of the white race literally runs circles around all of the other races, and I'm speaking in terms of nation building and the construction and architecture of civilization and technology and all of the things that the world counts as, very, very advanced and worthwhile. And so there is this jealousy factor that goes on, and of course it's not right, it's not proper, and the white race needs to have the healthy, proper type of pride in the achievements of its racial family and needs to not quake with fear at the tactics of intimidation.
Is the billboard still an issue? Is it still up?
No,
hold on, Sam. Stephanie says we're going to a break, so hang on.
Liberty is not free. Its costs are innumerable. Without monetary funding, the valiant efforts of freedom-loving Americans become diminished or outright defeated. We present a solution, the Give Me Liberty Fund. The plan is quite simple. Invite individual Americans to contribute less than $1 a day. These monetary funds are used to promote liberty-minded media, organizations, events, candidates, movements, and speakers. In the spirit of transparency, all expenditures are published. Patriotic business owners provide discounted products and services to Give Me Liberty Fund members. Our greatest strength is in numbers. Go to GiveMeLibertyFund.com and become part of the solution today. GiveMeLibertyFund.com. Participate in the peaceful restoration of the greatest and freest country in the world.
If you're at all like me, you have a tough time remembering appointments and events. But ladies and gentlemen, I have the answer. It's a premier service on the internet called Memo to Me. It's free. You ought to try it. Now, I never miss the honeydew items for my wife or the important business meetings. They have strict privacy protection. That means they will release your email address to no one ever. You will not get spam because of Memo to Me. Unmatched dependability. Ladies and gentlemen, these folks have been around since 1998, and they are absolutely up online all the time to send you your reminders and appointments. They have rock-solid reliability. They have 5 redundant internet connections, diesel-powered generators backing up the system. I'm telling you, Memo to Me is the premier reminder service on the internet. It's free. You ought to give it a try. And, oh, by the way, if you're not available at your computer to get your email reminders, they can even send a reminder to your cell phone or pager. I use memotome.com daily and highly recommend it to you. memotome.com. Memo to Me.
This is Joyce Riley from the Power Hour, and I want to introduce you to Numana Storable Foods. This is the first brand of storable foods that I am willing to put my name behind. It's food you can trust. No GMOs, no MSG, no chemical preservatives, and no fake meat. Plus, Numana doesn't just make that claim. They back it up with independent evaluation and testing. Another thing that Numana really does that excites me is the delicious vegetarian options. If your standards are as high as mine, I can confidently tell you that Numana Storable Foods are the quality choice that you've been waiting for. Numana won't just meet your expectations, they will exceed them. And that's why we're thrilled to have the good guys from Numana joining the Power Hour family. Go to powerprepper.com and learn about Numana Storable Foods. You can also call 877-817-9829. That's 877-817-9829. Numana, the storable food you'll love to eat.
Get on the show and speak with James and the gang, call us toll-free at 1-866-986-6397. And now, back to tonight's show.
Welcome back, folks. Welcome back to this evening's broadcast of the Political Cesspool radio program. I'm Winston Smith, sitting in for James Edwards, who's doing who knows what. And I have a guest tonight, Mr. Rick Tyler, who's running for 3rd Congressional District in Tennessee. And when we left off, I had asked him, we were talking about the effects of his famous Make America White Again billboard. And I'd asked him if the billboard was still an issue, if people still talk about it. So, Rick, take it away.
Well, amazingly, Winston, the billboard was actually illegally taken down, and the sign, the vinyl, was stolen within about 6 or 7 hours after it was put up. And what happened was, right after the billboard was put up, 10 minutes after it's being erected, I received a call from the owner of the billboard, whom I have a contract with, a civil contract that runs through the election in November. The owner had seen the billboard. He was jovial. He said to me, he said, Rick, he said, you're going to need to get more food at that restaurant tonight. I own a restaurant called the Whitewater Grill in Ocoee, Tennessee. I said, what do you mean, Ken? He said, I've already had, in 10 minutes, I've had 5 phone calls, and 4 of the people said they're voting for you. He said, you're going to have a big crowd at your restaurant tonight. I said, oh, great. Well, sure enough, a couple of hours later, I was at the restaurant. I was visiting with customers, and all of a sudden, I got another phone call, and this time it was the owner's wife. And she was very shrill and very angry, and she ordered me to take the billboard down and threatened that if I didn't, that she would burn it down within an hour. And so, of course, I told her that that was ridiculous. I would not take it down, and that I didn't even know how to take a billboard down, for that matter. Well, as the evening wore on, of course, the controversy continued to grow and swirl around, and about midnight that night, I drove down to the billboard location and viewed it, eyeballed it, and confirmed that it was still up and, still safe and sound. So I returned back to my home in my office, and I was working on some preparation for a commercial spot for the radio the following day. And at about 1 o'clock, I got contacted by an associate of mine who was monitoring the situation on social media, and he asked me if the billboard was up. And I said, as far as I knew, it was. And he said, well, there are indicators online that it's been taken down. So I immediately got in my truck and began driving down there, and I called the local sheriff's department and told them that I was reporting to them likely vandalism of my billboard. And at that point, the dispatcher told me, no, he said, Mrs. Bishop has called us and told us that she was going down there with somebody to remove the sign. Well, by the time I got there, it was gone, and the vinyl itself had been stolen. And, of course, that was the end of that sign. Now, I had a second sign, billboard, that was up in a location nearby, and it had a picture of the White House with Confederate flags flying from it, and it said, I have a dream across the top. And then Rick Tyler for Congress.com at the bottom. The following day, the mob began to threaten the owner of that billboard with the burning down of his very successful business if he did not acquiesce to their terroristic threats and take that billboard sign down. And that gentleman, of course, he was frightened beyond description, and he succumbed to the demands of this terroristic threat, and he took that sign down. And so, that has happened, and even though the signs were taken down, of course, the pictures of the signs had already been sent worldwide online. Now, what I am getting ready to do at the end of July, I have a tour bus, that is going to have the two verboten billboards, one on each side, 8 feet tall by 16 feet wide. And this tour bus, which also has a platform erected on its roof that I will be able to get up on and use it as a big soapbox, this tour bus is going to be used to tour the entire 3rd District, taking the billboard signs, which of course have been suppressed via the violation of my First Amendment rights, to take these signs to the electorate and to the various counties of the district, and we are going to not allow this draconian attack upon the First Amendment to go unchallenged. We are going to take this message to the people so they will have the opportunity to overcome their fear and vote for me in this upcoming congressional election.
You rightly used the phrase, rightly in my opinion, anyhow, terroristic threats made against the business owner. Is that being investigated at all?
Well, I think you probably know the answer to that question, because we are white, I'm white, and therefore don't have any civil rights. That if it was a black candidate who had had his sign taken down because of terroristic threats, we'd probably have 500 federal agents, taking up at least temporary residence in the county. But because it's me, an outspoken and ardent proponent of the civil rights of white people, all they do is basically just yawn and show no interest whatsoever.
You're taking a very bold step running for Congress on an explicitly pro-white people campaign, and I see nothing wrong with that, of course. Non-whites run for office all the time advocating for their racial group, and white people should be able to do likewise. How have you been received both locally and nationally?
Well, again, the local reaction has been a mixed bag. Of course, I've been told by many, many, many people, like I say, total strangers, how much they appreciate what I'm doing. They have reaffirmed time and again that, the sleeping giants, quote-unquote silent majority, especially in Polk County. The county I'm in is 98.6% white. And you don't live in a 98.6% white county unless you harbor some sentiments, of affinity for that type of a demographic makeup. Now, nationally, obviously, there has been a great deal of vitriol and a great deal of, attack-type journalism, predictably from, the bastions of liberalism. But even from a national standpoint, I have been reached out to, and I have reached out to a great many of people, who are of like mind and like commitment throughout the nation. And the good thing about, what has happened under the auspices of this campaign is that it is affording an opportunity for a great many people who are on the same wavelength concerning this very urgent and vital subject to connect one with another and to begin to lay the groundwork to form a unified front, in our common cause against these evil forces that are trying to destroy us.
Can you give some examples of negative national attention that you received? Well, let me ask you this first: Have you received any death threats?
Yeah, there have been some death threats, and of course, people who openly give death threats are, rule of thumb is they're not the ones you have to worry about. The ones that you have to be more concerned about, are the ones that don't telegraph, what it is that they are supposedly going to do. Of course, the ultimate death threat would come from the powers that be, the forces that operate clandestinely and surreptitiously in our land today. When you've been a lifetime conspiracy science student like myself, you understand that these people, they can kill anybody they want to. They can kill presidents, and they can sweep it under the rug and concoct bogus scenarios as to how the crime supposedly unfolded. And I tell people that, obviously the only hope is divine protection. One of the first speeches that I gave early on after my declaration of my candidacy was to a local group. This was a couple months ago. And after, kind of a rousing, speech that, got people standing up and clapping, an elderly gentleman came up to me afterwards, and he vigorously shook my hand, and he said, "They're going to kill you." And I said, sir, if everybody in the world wants you dead and God wants you alive, you'll be alive. And if I didn't have that kind of faith, that kind of Christian faith and biblical foundation and faith, I certainly would not be doing what I'm doing, because I understand that there are people who would readily and would, willfully, kill somebody such as myself, who is making this kind of a stand and getting the truth out in such an expansive manner.
All right. We're coming up on a break, so stay with us, folks. We'll be back with more from Rick Tyler.
Exposing corruption, informing citizens, pursuing liberty. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
With news this hour from LibertyNewsDaily.com, I'm William Grigg. Republican presidential nominee-in-waiting Donald Trump met with 200 congressional Republicans on July 7th in the hope of building rapport and reassuring them of his electoral viability. Many who had previously expressed support for the candidate said that the meeting went well. Some who hadn't yet been won over remained skeptical. Illinois Congressman Adam Kinzinger told The Hill that the meeting, which began 20 minutes late, was awkward, really awkward. There is a lack of enthusiasm. You can feel it. At one point in the discussion, Kinzinger continued, Mr. Trump cited press coverage of his recent remarks praising Saddam Hussein's use of summary execution as a counterterrorism strategy, as an example of how unfairly the media has treated his presidential campaign. All I can say is that I haven't endorsed him, added Representative Charlie Dent of Pennsylvania. I believe he has a lot of persuading to do. The St. Augustine nursing home in Diest, Belgium, has been ordered to pay the equivalent of nearly $7,000 in fines and civil damages to the adult children of a 74-year-old woman who had sought to be euthanized. The woman, who suffered from lung cancer, was taken to her home where she later died peacefully. The children filed a complaint claiming that by delaying the woman's death by euthanasia, the Catholic facility had caused her unnecessary mental and physical suffering. The facility had a long-standing policy that it would not participate in euthanasia under any circumstance. The three-judge panel ruled that the nursing home had no right to refuse euthanasia on the basis of conscientious objection. The Catholic Herald warns that the ruling could spell the closures of scores of Catholic-run nursing and care homes across Belgium. For commentary and insights on a troubled world, visit Joel Skousen's worldaffairsbrief.com. For LibertyNewsDaily.com, I'm William Grigg.
The Occidental Quarterly fills a unique niche in bringing together scholarly articles on a wide range of topics that are mired in political correctness elsewhere. It is edited by Professor Kevin McDonald, who's no stranger to listeners of the Political Cesspool. There are quite a few reasons for the precarious state of our civilization and our people, but one of the main ones is that we have lost the intellectual and moral high ground to a cultural elite that is hostile to our people and our culture. Those of us who are politically aware must understand that the elites dominating culture and the political process in the West are intellectually and morally bankrupt. TOQ is the key. Digital download subscriptions are only $30 a year. Subscriptions by first-class mail are only $60 a year. Go to TOQonline.com and click on Subscribe Now. In addition to receiving fascinating and informative articles, you will also be supporting the work of scholars who are part of a community defending our people and our culture with the highest level of integrity and intellectual sophistication. That's TOQonline.com. Subscribe now.
Welcome back. To get on the show, call us on James's dime at 1-866-986-6397.
All right, welcome back, my friends. Welcome back to tonight's broadcast of the Political Cesspool. I'm Winston Smith, filling in for James Edwards in this final hour of the broadcast. And I have as a guest Mr. Rick Tyler, congressional candidate for the 3rd Congressional District of Tennessee. And you can find out more about Mr. Tyler and his candidacy by going to www.ricktylerforcongress.com. Again, that's www.ricktylerforcongress.com. That's all one word, Rick Tyler for Congress. When we left off, I had asked about your reception, Rick, nationally, and I've asked you about death threats, and you You have a very inspiring and courageous testimony, if you will, of your trust in divine providence over protecting your life. I was wondering if you could give some examples of some of the negative national attention you've received from journalists or political hacks or whatever.
I think, we counted just trying to tabulate the extent of, news articles being written in publications throughout the nation and the world, and, it was well over 150, and, a lot of the big muckety-muck publications of the, controlled media. And, of course, predictably and typically they, were going from their basic, talking points, not doing their own independent research. New York Daily News was probably one of the most ridiculous, stories, where the, the writer of the article, opined and editorialized, under the guise of being a reporter and a journalist. They use all of the buzzwords, all of the ad hominem attacks, racist, white supremacists. They'll weave in references here and there to David Duke and, use all of their typical methodologies that they use. And, of course, one thing that I always do when I have the opportunity to deal directly with the media is I won't tango with them. It takes two to tango, and I simply will not countenance this use of the canard of racism. I will demand on the spot that they define racism, and, of course, they never can do that. And then I point out to them that, their inability to define racism really renders it as being an invalid technique on their part, and, of course, I, expose them and call them out. One very, very good media interchange that I had was with a local TV reporter out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, a young lady by the name of Kelly McCarthy, and she did a very, very even-handed job and interviewed me on the roadside beside the billboard where it was taken down. And I had a 9-minute interview with her where she asked them, good and hard questions, but then gave me an opportunity to respond to them in a proper way. And this 9-minute interview on the roadside, has been viewed over 1 million times, and the feedback that I get from it is overwhelmingly favorable. And, of course, even people who are not necessarily in agreement with me, they, tend to express the sentiment that, I have the absolute First Amendment right to express my opinions, and that I do it in a very level-headed and passionate yet, controlled and, dignified way. So I appreciate when there are people who are even of a different persuasion, but they will make that kind of acknowledgement. But there's everything from A to Z, from one end of the spectrum to the other, as you can imagine. And, again, sometimes there were some inaccurate quotations that were attributed to me, and numerous scores of publications, in fact, picked up on those inaccurate quotations and printed them, verbatim. And so a lot of the news articles with those inaccurate quotations render an impression that is, less than, the accurate statements that I did, in fact, make on the first evening of the controversy.
Referring back to the interview, where can folks see that?
Well, if they will Google Make America White Again and Rick Tyler, that interview will come up. It's on Facebook. It's on YouTube. And even if they go to Channel 3 in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and go to their Facebook page, they will be able to find it there. It's not difficult to find, like I say. It's been viewed over 1 million times. I held a press conference the following Monday after the billboard controversy erupted the previous Tuesday, and that press conference was attended by the full media representation out of Chattanooga, and that same channel, Channel 3, streamed the interview live on Facebook, and there were 13,000 people watching the press conference live for almost a full hour.
Mm-hmm. All right. Since your campaign is explicitly pro-white people, I assume you're mightily concerned about immigration issues. We all know the grim prediction that by 2040, year 2040, the white population in the U.S. will be the minority population. Why do you think that's happening? And if elected, how will you try to stop the non-white invasion?
Yes, I believe that unfortunate statistic is going to be reached before 2040. Again, I grew up in Miami, and I saw how overnight Miami, Florida was taken over by an alien influx, that came very, very rapidly, very quickly. And, of course, it was repeated in 79 in the Mariel boat lift. But, yes, I'm absolutely, concerned to the greatest possible degree about this immigration debacle. And of course, we know that it came about as a result of the legislation that was, put through fraud in the mid '60s. They didn't canvass the supermajority white population in '65 and asked them if it was okay with them if they were going to, change the demographic to what it is today, barely 60% over the next half century. Instead, they lied. They said that it would not fundamentally change the demographic. They got the legislation in, and then they proceeded to bring in 85% non-white legal immigration from that point forward, and then all of the illegal immigration, which is almost exclusively non-white, so that over 50 years, 70 million non-whites came into our country and reduced us a good whopping 25 percentage points down to the 60%, that we're at right now and going down quickly. We obviously need to bring about an immediate cessation of all non-white immigration into this country. As a matter of policy, I would advocate staunchly for that as a representative. And by the way, if I do get elected, I will have a bully pulpit that no congressman has ever had before in the history of this nation. Every eye internationally will be upon this race. And if I get elected, I will be able to do and accomplish things in the Congress that really nobody else has ever been able to do. And I will boldly do that very thing. Now, I would also advocate for the policies that would maximize the white immigration into this country from nations such as South Africa, where the white minority is being, victimized by genocidal policies, former Rhodesia as well. I would also advocate for maximum white immigration out of Europe, where the white people there are being overrun by the teeming multitudes of the third world. I would also advocate strongly for the termination of all domestic policies which facilitate and bring about the escalation of the non-white birth rate in this country. People who are on welfare, people who can't support themselves or a child that they bring into this world should not be able to continue to receive any type of government assistance and continue to bring more children into the world. Of course, the welfare state as a whole is egregiously unconstitutional, and it should be shut down systematically as a matter of policy as well. And of course, the final policy that I would vigorously advocate for would be the shutting down of all illegal immigration, obviously a great deal of which comes across our deliberately porous southern border.
Uh-huh. I often read opinion pieces, and I engage people in conversation also. And the authors of these pieces and the people who I engage, they'll say something like, "Why are white people afraid of and angry at their approaching minority status?" Now, that question makes the wrong assumption that we're afraid and angry. We're concerned, of course, and legitimately so. But my reply to such people is, well, why are you so encouraged and happy about it?
Very good point, and I would take it one step further and say that many of us are righteously indignant that our inheritance has been stolen from us. After all, it was our racial ancestors who promulgated the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, the United States Constitution, the Magna Carta, going all the way back to Runnymede. It was our racial ancestors who birthed and brought forth this singularly unique great nation, a Christian constitutional republic, and it has been stolen from us. It has been taken from us by fraud, by theft, and even by strong-arm tactics. And we should be righteously indignant, and we should be passionate in our determination to right this wrong and to reestablish justice. That's what Anglo-Saxon jurisprudence is all about, the exaltation of righteous judgment. And to sit there and countenance and allow a crime as egregious and as vile as the theft of our inheritance from our racial ancestors is the epitome of dereliction of duty on the part of the modern white electorate.
Stephanie says we're coming up on a break, so can you hang on for another segment?
Absolutely.
Very good. Folks, stay with us. We'll be right back with more from Rick Tyler.
We fought, we learned, we struggled, we won. Despite Obama's best efforts, the newspaper of the human resistance survives. We have lived only to face a new nightmare, the war against the machines. Read about our struggle in The Sovereign, newspaper of the resistance. The Sovereign is a 24-page monthly tabloid newspaper about the war between man and machines. We've tried reason, we've tried legislation. We've tried every peaceful means imaginable, and all it's gotten us is shut out. So now we fight the machines. Order online today at thesovnews.com or find The Sovereign at select newsstands. Remember to read The Sovereign, newspaper of the resistance. The human resistance's battle against the machines will be everlasting. This is mercy. It was never our destiny to stop the age of Obama. It was merely to survive it. Together.
Are you familiar with the term vigor? Strength in body and mind? He pursued his tennis game with vigor, for example? Well, I hadn't, but I learned about it from Kurt Crosby. All right? And he actually let me take a scientifically proven free vigor test. And I got 13 out of 32, not very good. But I worked on it with him, and believe it or not, now I have a 29 out of 32 and improving vigor score. You say, Sam, what on earth is this scientific vigor score, huh? My response is you got to take the free test, available now. Get a hold of Kurt Crosby to learn about it. The number's 801-669-2211. That's 801-669-2211. Or email Kurt, C-U-R-T, at LibertyRoundtable.com. That's Kurt, C-U-R-T, at LibertyRoundtable.com for your free vigor test today. Kurt, LibertyRoundtable.com, or 801-669-2211. Vigor test, free, scientifically proven today.
As a parent, is receiving a faith-based, character-focused education for your children difficult to find? Do you believe that godly principles should be a central component in your child's education? Imagine a school where faith and integrity are at its center, where heritage and responsibility instill character. For over 40 years, American Heritage School has been educating both hearts and minds, bringing out academic excellence. This is the school where character and embracing the providence of a living God are fundamental, where students' national test scores average near the 90th percentile. With American Heritage School's advanced distance education program, distance is no longer an issue. With an accredited LDS-oriented curriculum from kindergarten through 12th grade, your children can attend from anywhere in the world. American Heritage School will prepare your child for more than a job. It will prepare them for life. To learn more, visit American-Heritage.org. That's American-Heritage.org.
Welcome back. To get on the show, call us on James's Dime at 1-866-986-6397.
All right. Welcome back, folks. It's been an interesting evening with Rick Tyler. I'm Winston Smith, filling in for James Edwards on this final segment of the final hour of this broadcast of the Political Cesspool. Rick, I'd like to have you on for a little bit more here, and if you don't mind, thank you for your time. But I'd like to ask you about this. 2 weeks ago, the people of Britain finally woke up and voted to leave the European Union, and it was a move that was widely seen as a refutation of globalism. Brits who voted to leave and who were interviewed after the vote overwhelmingly said that the crux of the issue for them was immigration. Do you see a connection between globalism and immigration? And if elected, how will you fight it?
Most definitely, and I was so excited that the vote turned out the way it did. Of course, I looked for, a very quick retaliation against the courageous people who voted to pull out of the EU there in Britain. I equate it with secession. I believe that they seceded from the European Union, and I believe that, obviously the immigration policies that are flooding and inundating Western nations with the teeming multitudes of the Third World, they are one of the centerpiece policies of the globalists to try to enslave humanity and to try to destroy that great bulwark against tyranny, which is the white supermajority of a nation such as ours that we had in the past as recently as 50 years ago. I believe that secession really is the only immediate answer for the rebuilding of the fortifications and the foundations of what our founding fathers established in excess of 200 years ago. I believe that we are going to have to get real serious about doing what Britain has done by, pulling out of the EU. We're going to have to do that in our own country, regrettably, because we have let this situation get so far out of control. And I believe that secession is a potential answer for here in our own country domestically as a means to begin to lay the groundwork for ultimate restoration. But it's going to be a long, difficult, arduous struggle any way we slice it.
It wasn't that long ago. It was early in Obama's first administration, I think it was, that he went to there was some African country that had seceded from its parent country, and I wish I could remember what it is, but I'm certain it happened. And he went there to speak. He welcomed the formation of this new country. He welcomed this secession, and he even invoked the words of Martin Luther King in congratulating these people from seceding. And there have been numerous times in American history where we have supported secession. In other countries, it just seems like our government will not support secession of people who really want nothing more to do with it.
Well, that's true, and of course, the unfinished business of the 1860s, I call it, is a real sore spot with me. And, I like, the fact that I believe it was Salmon Chase who said we can't put Jeff Davis on trial. Of course, Davis was the foremost constitutional scholar in the country at that time. He said because if we put him on trial, he'll walk right out of the courtroom and back into the White House of the Confederacy. There's no question in any rational person's mind that the invasion of the South was nothing short of naked, brutal aggression. They constituted war crimes against the South, and we were militarily subjugated. And there's no statute of limitations on murder. The accessories after the fact that continue to perpetuate the crimes of the 1860s are going to have to be dealt with ultimately. And this, people say, oh, this happened 150 years ago, get over it. No, we're not going to get over it. This was brutal, genocidal murder. And again, as I stated, there's no statute of limitations on murder, and we have to redress this grievous injustice. And I think the Brexit vote just, brings the issue right back up to the forefront to where we can begin to explain it to people and help them to understand that these crimes of the past are very relevant to the injustices that we are suffering right at this present moment.
Well, the rampant, malignant black-on-white crime is a direct result of Reconstruction. I've always said that the secession is reverse conquest. What do you think of that?
I think that's an excellent term, and if you don't mind, I'm going to steal that from you.
No, there's no theft involved. You're welcome to use it. Well, look, how's your campaign going?
Well, it's going well in terms of the the name recognition factor, which again is a prerequisite to having any chance whatsoever. Now, the bus tour that we are planning to launch at the end of the month, it will come immediately on the heels of an event that we're going to hold right here at our home base in Ocoee, and we're excited that there are some nationalistic groups that are going to throw their lot in with us and help to promote this event. And of course, anybody who wants to come and be a part of it on July 30th is welcome to do so. It will be in close proximity to where my restaurant is located. It'll be on a private piece of land. We will have security in place, and we'll be holding a press conference to announce the tour. And it'll, of course, feature the bus with the big brazen, bold billboards mounted on the sides. And, we will feature, like I said, a press conference and an announcement, relative to many of the things that the campaign is getting ready to do. One thing we're also holding is a fundraising dinner where we will give a door prize of an AR-15 at that dinner. And that's, of course, to rub in the faces of the liberals the fact that we are unapologetic, vigorous proponents of the Second Amendment. And we intend to defend ourselves, if necessary, by, lethal force, if, foolish forces try to, in some way threaten or intimidate us with thuggish tactics.
As I read your website, the about you section, I I see, and it's, you know, a blind man could see it practically, that your Christian faith permeates your campaign and pretty much permeates all of your studies and that you've done, a considerable amount of studies. And I'd like to, since you are well versed in such things, I'd like to give you a theory of mine. Now, I think that the reason we have lost our country is because we have violated the fifth commandment, which says to honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Now, every day we see how people in the South, how white people in the South are abandoning their heritage, and they're dishonoring our forebears, our mothers and fathers. Now, I'll confess to you, I'm a Presbyterian, a Calvinist, and we have a view of the fifth commandment that it doesn't mean just your immediate mother and father, but it goes all the way back throughout your lineage. Now, people in the South have pretty much disowned their heritage, and our land is being taken from us as punishment. And as soon as we get back to the business of honoring where we came from, honoring our fathers and our mothers, then our land will be restored to us. What do you think?
I agree with you 1,000%. I have the exact same, belief and premise relative to the commandment that you have spoken of, which is the commandment, with promise. And I believe that when we turn our backs on those foundational truths that all of our ancestors going back centuries concurred upon and believed wholeheartedly, that we are slapping them in the face. We are committing this grievous insult against them. And 2 Chronicles 7:14 says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, will forgive their sin, and will heal their land. Well, one of the wicked ways, and of course the Scripture also says judgment begins at the house of God, one of the wicked ways of the modern church is this rejection of the ancient landmarks. The psalmist said, if the foundations be destroyed, what shall the righteous do? I believe the response correctly to that rhetorical question is rebuild the foundations. And that means to return to those ancient landmarks, and especially as concerns race, heritage, culture. The sin of miscegenation is running rampant today. And it wasn't that long ago that miscegenation was readily recognized as an abomination in the eyes of God. And now we have apologists for miscegenation that are in the pulpits of the modern church. This is a horrific sin that needs to be repented of. And if we don't repent of this sin as a people, we will continue to suffer the curses that are spoken of in Deuteronomy 28. And I look forward to being able to proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ. I've been a born-again, spiritually regenerate believer in Jesus Christ, and I too am Calvinistic, but I also understand the importance of how free will plays into the construct. You have to have both election and free will to understand and rightly divide the word of truth. But I look forward to being able to proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ from the floor of the United States House of Representatives, and to call the nation to a 2 Chronicles 7:14 style repentance through the power and the blood of Jesus Christ. And I promise that I will do that as a congressman in the United States House of Representatives.
Well, I'm afraid that's the end of the show. Rick, I'd like to thank you for being on with me, and I wish you all the best in your campaign.
Well, I thank you so much for letting me be on, and God bless everybody.